Hi and welcome to the Property Show. My name is Nancy. This is the show that will give you an in-depth look into the property market, provide you with current trends, tips, home accessories, professional information of the hottest properties available in the market. There is something for everyone. On this show, we are joining Triad Architects as they celebrate their jubilee, which they have dubbed as Triad at 50. They'll be talking to us about how architecture has evolved over the years, and they'll also be taking us through some of the great projects they have undertaken. Let's go meet the team. Hi team. Thank you for having us and congratulations to Triad on your 50th birthday.
That's very kind of you and welcome.
Thank you so much, Tim. Tell us about yourself.
I came to Kenya in 1969 on a program called VSO, which is, I think, similar to the American Peace Corps. And I worked for the Ministry of Works, and David Matiso was my first boss because I just left university. After a short stint with VSO, which was rather like, I think in modern days young people have what they call a gap year, and it's rather like my gap year. I then joined Bras Menezes from Ministry of Works and worked with him for 2 years. Actually, the project I worked on there, which I think I'm quite proud of, is Buruburu. Of course, in those days, that part of Nairobi was Mistoni. So we planned Buruburu and started doing the first few phases of that. I then left Bras, and I intended to get back to England to work, but England in the 70s was a rather bleak place, and it didn't take very long for me to turn around. I applied for a job which I'm still doing. So in 1973, I turned around and came back to Kenya and joined Triad. And at that stage, Triad was 10 years old, and I think we were finding it quite hard work to exist as a practice.
How did the partners think of Kenya as their destination where they wanted to set up Triad?
Triad was set up in '63 by two quite different architects. One was Amos Connell, who was a revolutionary designer. He was a New Zealander and had gone to England in the 20s. He was born in 1900, so after the First World War he worked his way to England on a tramp steamer, stoking the boilers to get there with a friend. And when he got to England, he won the Rome Prize, which is a very important prize, and studied in Italy. Went back and then began a very radical design practice called Connell Lucas Ward, and they designed the first sort of concrete houses in England. Now, of course, the English, as you know, were a fairly conservative lot, and these houses weren't very well received, but of course they have become protected buildings since then, because he was the pioneer of the modern movement. And if you talk to any well-educated English architect nowadays, they will always bow down to the Connell name. Wow. Now, okay, the war came in '39, and of course private building stopped. Everybody took the war effort, and after the war he ended up in Tanga. He met somebody in London, came out and worked in Tanga, did a lot of work in Tanga, which I'd love to go and see, and then worked on Parliament here. The first phase of Parliament, which was then Legco, he worked on that and moved his practice to Nairobi. So then there was Amos working on his own, doing the Parliament and also the Aga Khan Hospital, for which he won an RIBA bronze medal. At the same time, there was a man called Graham McCulloch, and Graham was a very different man. Amos was quite chaotic. I mean, his filing system was never great. but he was a great designer, and often the case. But Graham was a very precise man. In fact, I think their fusion was one of the successors of the early part of Triad. Graham set up all the systems here, but he was a good designer, and he designed some of the very early lodges in this country. Keekarok, Treetops, the Ark were all designed by Graham, and they got on very well. But you know, it was a difficult time for Europeans to be setting up a practice in Kenya. Here we were moving into uncertain period. I think it's very brave of them. They set this up literally 3 months before independence. They formed a company, which was also unusual. And within 10 years, well, Graham by then was well into his 70s. Sorry, not Graham, it was Amos was well into his 70s. And Graham had got a big job in the Seychelles. I think decided he wanted to go and live in the Seychelles. So they both faded out. And it was then becoming difficult for what was totally European firms to find work. I mean, yes, there was work in the private sector, but architects traditionally existed on the public sector, and that was beginning to dry up. David Matisse had set up in practice, Bulwera was setting up in practice, and they're beginning to capture that work. And I noticed, because I was only a junior person in the practice, that it was hard to get work. We had some very solid clients, so fortunately. We had the Church Commissioners of Kenya, which is the Anglican Church's property company. We did a lot of church work, and we also had the KPCU, who were then a very important operation, and we did a huge amount of work for them, and that carried us through. We did have a very interesting commission at that stage called the Diani study, where we master planned the whole of Diani township, which sadly was never implemented. I think it's been a great loss to Kenya. So the 70s were a difficult time, but we picked up some important projects. KPCU, we then did Norfolk Towers, Longonot Place, and of course Longonot Place we started in 1982, August 1982. Bullets flying around the site, and everybody of course had the fears that things were going to go pear-shaped. Well, of course they didn't, but I think if you look at Triad's history, it is very much a mirror of Kenya. There have been booms and busts. There have been some very difficult times. As we entered into the Moi era, I think life became difficult for us then, and I don't mind saying that there was a huge amount of corruption in the awarding of contracts, and this practice took a decision that we will not get involved with that. So it meant that Triad has pretty well been excluded from all government work during that period. But we did do quite a lot of important parastatal work, and of course one of the major projects which graces the skyline of Nairobi is Times Tower, which we designed. And of course we kept very strong connections with the banking sector. Barclays Plaza is one of Triad's buildings, and that was done by James Gitoho. Times Towers was designed by Daniel Matiso, our partner, original Kenyan partner, who sadly died some years ago. And so that kept us alive. What was I doing? I'm not actually a person that does a lot of commercial work. My interest has always been development work, which is probably why I came here as a VSO. And the projects that we were doing was things like Isiolo Hospital, which was a very interesting project, and you're really delivering help down into the rural areas. We then did, and this is rather appropriate considering that she died the other day, the Margaret Thatcher Library at Moi University. And these development projects we continue to do, and also to work outside of Nairobi, outside of Kenya, into southern Sudan during the peace after the Addis Accord, into Uganda after Museveni came to power, and we actually did a lot of quite big projects in Uganda, And after the genocide in Rwanda, we went into Rwanda and did work there. So we've always tended to go into countries when they're rebuilding. And in fact, we're into Burundi now and exploratory fields into Somalia. The development side of the practice has always been something I've looked after and like to do, and I'm continuing to do. We have got some interesting projects in that sector at the moment. One that we are designing at the moment in collaboration with a firm of architects from London is the Wangari Maathai Institute, which is, I think, something we're going to be very proud to be associated with when it comes off.
Where is it going to be?
That's going to be in the campus at Kibeti. Obviously, the veterinary campus is very, very protective of her and wants to have it's on Kapenguria Road, and we are close to starting building this in this year. Obviously, any architect is keen on design, and that is, making sure your building is well designed, it fits the brief, and of course the aesthetics of the building. It's an issue which I feel quite passionate about, and I think if you look around Nairobi, there has been a lot of buildings built that shouldn't have been built aesthetically or not very good. And so once you've actually got your building designed, it is a matter of delivering that building on time, on budget,
good quality,
and the good quality. You're absolutely right.
Were you originally involved with the museum construction, or have you just been involved in the recent construction of the latest museum?
The original buildings obviously were done in 1923 and 1953, before my time. But recently the EU gave funds to expand the building, and that's the one that we've done. So if you go onto the site now, the new buildings were done by Triad, designed by Triad. Sadly, of course, we lost that lovely gate to the Thika Road, but we are, hopefully, next week or week after, going to start rebuilding the gate, and the artist who did the original work on it is going to be used.
Thank you so much. Where do you see architecture going from here?
I might be slightly controversial here, and that's probably not a bad idea. I think one of the things we've got to get going in Kenya is more training in the schools in the aesthetics of architecture. One of the great bugbears I have is that computer programs, particularly a thing called ArchiCAD, has allowed people to just generate a building by pressing a button on a computer. I mean, they have to plan it and they do the sections, but then they just produce an elevation which looks quite sexy, but doesn't work. And, it's garbage in, garbage out, and we're getting a lot of garbage buildings here. A building requires a huge amount of design. Now, look, I've had most of my career in this country, and I've, in fact, learned a lot for myself. Of late, Triad has been working very, very closely with firms from abroad, and we're seeing the different design techniques that are being used in Europe. I think it's something to do with also the fee scale we have here. We don't get a big fee because buildings are relatively cheap to build here. But the amount of time and effort that's put into the design process abroad is much, much more than we have been used to here. And I think it's been an amazing experience that we've had in learning, working with overseas firms. We've got to try and translate that back to the local scene. I don't think in the 50 years that we've been, well, no, actually for 40 years I've been around in this practice, that more than half a dozen buildings in Kenya have been actually published. When I mean published, I mean actually in international magazines, and that is rather a pity, because there are some quite good buildings here, but there are not enough good buildings here. And I really hope that architecture here will begin to look more at the aesthetics.
We are taking a short break. Don't go away. Join us as we take the journey on the great projects Triad has undertaken for 50 years.
Well, I've been here for 3.5 years. That was starting beginning of the year 2010. Well, I did my architecture in Kenya, and here it takes 6 years to actually from the start to the end. But I know currently there's a system that they're working on. It's yet to be finalized, where after 4 years you get a bachelor's of technology in architecture, and then you can work for a year, or you can proceed on for another 2 years, where you get your bachelor's and a master's in architecture. The first thing is you have to be totally sure that you're actually interested in doing architecture. So, and the way to know if you're interested in architecture is, it's very basic. Besides having the grades, and especially so, because a lot of the universities locally do take a lot of maths and physics, they emphasize on good performance. But besides that, there's more about what I'd call the interest part of it. If you're more interested in graphics, your life seems to be more tickled by 3D stuff, artwork and buildings. You find yourself being analytical about spaces and human living in those spaces, then you probably are cut out for architecture. I think there's a lot of, the universities are now encouraging a lot more girls to take it up. I know also many more schools are now encouraging girls to take up architecture. So there's a trend, and then also parents have become more involved in their kids' careers, and also there's a lot of encouragement going from mentors and parents, and also, yeah, so I'd say that attributes that. I think it's amazing. I think it's fantastic that in so many years Triad is still standing as a big firm and as a renowned firm. So I'd say kudos to those ones who actually started it. We have a history of many fantastic people who have run this company and are continuing to run. I know the management has changed over time. Yeah, we've had fantastic people running the company, so I think that's fantastic that we've come this far.
It's great. It's great we are celebrating our jubilee, and as part of that we have in fact increased our activity on the CSR, which is something we have been doing for a long time. We associate with Gertrude's, who's our neighbors, Gertrude's Children's Hospital, Muthaiga Primary School, Shelate School in Runda, and we have continuously supported them. But we have found that it's in a better way to have a sustainable vehicle for doing this. We formed Triad Foundation, which then we can link up and partner with other people in the same area of activity. And so Triad Foundation has been launched and was launched early this year through a golf tournament in Muthaiga, which we raised funds to help Muthaiga Primary School and Gertrude's Children's Home. Right now we have actually repaired and renewed 3 classrooms at Muthaiga. They were opened just this week as the schools were opening. We're moving into Gertrude's with a space they have, which they want to create it for a place of prayer for all denominations, and we're going to do that as well. We think it's a vehicle we shall use to partner with our clients who have similar interests and similar objectives. We want to concentrate on areas of housing, education, and health. So we will be partnering with those that are in that area, because we cannot do everything, even if we wanted to, but we'll do what we can.
What exactly will you be doing on health?
Generally, because of our skill set, there are many clinics, like we have done even with Muthaiga. There are many clinics that need even purely advice on repairs and renewals, new buildings. So we will volunteer our professional services when we are doing that, we are undertaking such work. Then when it comes to issues of equipment and other, especially equipment in a clinic, then we will go to our clients and friends with regard to clinics. But we also must do other social activities that can generate funds towards the same cause. Yeah.
Asante sana, and once again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's look at other properties available in the market.
Sigona Valley is a serene, gated community located off Wayaki Way. It comprises of 30 homes set on 4 acres. Sigona Valley prides itself as modest living in a premier location with easy access to Nairobi's growing infrastructure network. It offers a variety of 3-house designs for a 3-bed villa to a grand 4-bed villa. These homes have access to community facilities such as borehole water supply, solar hot water heating, wastewater recycling and secured boundary walling. Sigona Valley homes cater for a multitude of family types and boast a sense of space and style at an affordable rate. For this property, the price ranges from 16.95 million to 19.95 million Kenya shillings. For anyone willing to purchase the property for investment, the current rent rates range from 80,000 to 120,000 Kenya shillings per month. Bandari Apartments is a gated community within the quiet neighborhood of Bellevue South Sea. Each unit is a 3-bedroom apartment with a servant's quarter. The apartments are of great quality which offer a lounge and dining with a balcony, ensuite master bedroom, 2 bedrooms sharing a shower and toilet, a kitchen with a yard, domestic staff quarters with own shower and toilet and independent access. Bandari Apartments have common parking, children playgrounds and landscaped lawns to enhance communal and social living. For this prime property, the price is 11 million Kenya shillings. For anyone willing to purchase the property for investment, the current rent rates are 45,000 Kenya shillings per month. An oasis of calm, 5-Star Gardens is a community of 313 elegant 2- and 3-bedroom apartments set in a secure gated community. Every apartment is spacious, bright, stylish, and complete with high quality and modern finishes. The developer went an extra mile to ensure that each unit is solar compliant. Each apartment offers master bedroom ensuite, modular modern kitchen with pantry, spacious lounge with separate dining area, built-in wardrobes, and Spanish ceramic tiles. 5-Star Gardens has a boundary wall with electric fence, Cabro-paved roads and parking, ample visitors car parking, borehole, solar street lights, commercial center with shops, children's playground, and manicured lawns and gardens. For this prime property, the price is, for the 2-bedroom, 5 million Kenya shillings, for the 3-bedroom, 7 million Kenya shillings. For anyone willing to purchase the property for investment, the current rent rates range from 20,000 to 30,000 Kenya shillings per month.
Here are the highlights of Triad at 50.
Triad Architects was incorporated in 1963 by Royal Institute of British Architects, bronze medalist Amyas Cornell, and the Professional Centre founder Graham McCullough. Triad Architects celebrates 50 years in Kenya, and the design experience is wide-ranging, as would be expected of a practice that has designed well over 1,000 projects since its foundation. Here are some of the important projects done by Triad Architects since 1963. Parliament Building, Norfolk Towers, Corner House, Barclays Plaza, Times Tower, Longonot Place, National Museums of Kenya, Coca-Cola East and Central Headquarters in Nairobi, British Council in Nairobi, hospitals such as the original Aga Khan Hospital in Nairobi, Nairobi Hospital, Clinical Officer School in Mombasa, and Isiolo District Hospital. Muthaiga Country Club, residential properties such as Komarok Estate, Bandari Apartments, which sales are currently ongoing, and among others. There are ongoing projects Triad Architects are undertaking such as UAP Tower in Upper Hill, which will be one of the tallest buildings on the Nairobi skyline, and Kericho Cathedral, which will be a landmark in Kericho. Triad Architects provide interior design services and continues to work on projects in association with other international architects. Their architectural practice has evolved over the years, and they continue to use international best practices, which include designing buildings that are green and energy efficient. Triad equips architectural students by providing them guidance and training on best architectural practices. In addition, they help and support the community. Their focus is on housing, education and health. They support Muthaiga School, Chileta School, Gertrude's Children's Hospital and Sanaka Children's Home in Kiambu. Triad Architects is located at Triad House, 83 Muthaiga Road in Nairobi, Kenya.
Thank you for watching the Property Show. Once again, we would like to congratulate Triad as they celebrate their jubilee and for showing us some of the great projects they have undertaken over the years. We appreciate your feedback and we welcome your ideas on any topics you'd like our experts to address. Thank you for watching and see you next week. Kwaheri.